had some free time this evening, so I thought I would spend a few minutes and record episode number 3 of Diary of a Physicist Farmgal. I am a full-time professor of physics and astronomy at a local university, and I do a lot of educational outreach with young women, particularly in STEM fields. I also volunteer to do planetarium shows for school groups, and generally try to get my students interested in the importance of science in the public and being good public scholars. I also live on my family farm, which I am the 3rd generation of my family to own this land that I live on, and I raise grass-fed beef and horses, and I also have rabbits and chickens and geese, and I also have a small herd of miniature horses and miniature donkeys and a miniature mule that thinks she rules the roost. I also live in the company of fur babies numbering 14 dogs, yes, 14 dogs, and 5 cats inside, and then an undetermined number of outside barn cats. In my free time, I volunteer at the local middle school GT program with my former junior high school English teacher, who is now the retired GT coordinator for the school district. And I also volunteer at a riding program where I teach riding lessons and help with horsemanship and teach kids about how to take care of their horses, and do pretty much whatever Miss Marianne asks me to do. And then in the last of my free time, I volunteer at the local state park where I do whatever I'm asked to do, usually do astronomy programs, but tomorrow night, for example, I'm teaching a program on weather and weather lore and how there's the science behind weather lore. But anyway, so I hope you enjoy being here. This is Diary of a Physicist Farmgal, episode number 3. Okay, I thought I would start with a little bit about why do I have 14 dogs. I get a lot of questions about that, and a lot of people don't understand what it's like to live in the rural South. For whatever reason, the culture of spaying and neutering your dogs down here is not one that's been instilled like it has in some other areas of the country. I remember my own dad was vehemently opposed to spaying and neutering dogs. And anytime a dog would come into heat, he would just shut her up in the barn. And part of the time that worked, and part of the time that didn't work. And I remember, though, we also live at a dump-off place. I live at a crossroads, and then up the road from me, it's a dead-end road, and there is a church and a cemetery, and that seems to be a very popular place for people to dump out dogs and cats, thinking that someone will be benevolent and will save the dogs and cats, and that's generally not the case. Usually they will travel either further away, and there's people that way that will usually take them in, or I will take them in, but sometimes they unfortunately don't make it, either because they wander the wrong direction, and there are people here who will shoot dogs and cats if they wander onto their property, or we do have wildlife. We have coyotes and we have bobcats, and I'm pretty sure there's a mountain lion around here too. So that's why I have 14 dogs. I remember as a child one time we had almost 30 dogs, and you know, over the years we've always had at least 3 or 4. So I have the ability to take care of them. They're all vetted. They always get their shots. They're very well fed. They live a pretty good life. They get to sleep on the bed and wherever they want to, and sometimes to the point that I give up and go sleep on the couch. So I have the ability to take care of them. I don't have anybody to answer to but me, so hence it just, you know when it's the right thing to do. I mean, I have said no. I once dated a man who told me that I never said no to any dog or cat, and that's not true. I've said no to plenty. I used to foster for a dog rescue. I fostered close to 400 dogs in the course of a few years, and got them all good homes, except for this little guy, Willie, which you've seen a few times on my videos. He was a rescue from a local high kill shelter along with Ellie Mae, my hound dog, and he was probably the straw that broke the camel's back in that relationship. But I saw his little face, and he looked scared to death, and he was on death row and was scheduled to be euthanized. And I went and talked to the local rescue and said, here's money, go get them out, and I will foster them. Well, it's hard to adopt out older dogs, and so Ellie Mae stayed, and I just fell in love with Willie, and so he's a foster failure, and I don't regret that for a second, just to be truthful. Maybe I'm a little weird, maybe I'm got some hoarding tendencies, I don't know, but all of my animals are well taken care of, and you know, my house is clean. It smells like I have 14 dogs, but only because it smells like dog. You know, and like I said in a video one time on Instagram, don't you worry about it. You're not paying my feed bill, and you don't have this imaginary cleaning job. So that's why I have 14 dogs. Yeah, plus I live on land. They have a big backyard that's fenced that they can go out and play in. The big dogs can stay outside when the weather's nice. They enjoy being out there. They have the ability to come in and out as they choose. The little dogs I don't let go out because they can get through the fence if they try, and people drive down my road way too fast, so they have to go out supervised. Yes, you do. But anyway, so that's a little bit of background why I have so many animals. Just because I know some people probably wonder, and frankly, don't care what you think. If I'm the crazy animal lady, so what? I pay my own bills. But you know, when you look at their little faces, you know, how can you tell this face no? Huh? How can you tell that face no? Okay, but anyway, so that's a little bit of background about why I have so many animals. They find me, and it's part of my work. It's part of the work that I was put here to do. You know, call it my sacred duty, call it my calling, I don't know, but it's why I'm here. And one day I'll talk about what I mean about being land-tied, and maybe you'll understand a little bit better. Anyway, so let's get to some of the things I've been working on. I'm filming a little bit later in the day, and the lighting situation is not as good as it normally is, so I apologize in advance for that. But anyway, let me show you a couple of things that I have finished. First of all, I finished and I haven't woven in my ends yet, but I finished my Canyon Cowl, which is a pattern by Ellen Brandt. Okay, and it is a simple pattern. It's very easy to memorize, but it's perfect for this beautiful self-striping yarn by String Theory Colorworks. And I had posted a picture of this, and she had commented on it, how she was really kind of impressed by how it's striped up. It's really supposed to be self-striping sock yarn, but I was pretty tickled that it created this striped pattern on here. I held it double, and I took a strand from the outside of the ball and the inside of the ball because I was too lazy to wind it into two balls. And I'm really tickled with it. This is her continuum base, which is merino, cashmere, and nylon. She is a dyer out of Florida, I believe, and all of her colorways, the majority of her colorways have sciencey names, so I love that. But she's String Theory Colorworks, and this is the Canyon Cowl. It's just a simple cowl. You can make it as tall as you want, but I finished it in time for her knit along, so I was pretty tickled about that. So that's the Canyon Cowl, and I'll link all this down below. Okay, another thing that I finished for my friend Sasha, and I'm going to have her try this on. This is the True North Toque, and it's a good, very quick knit. And it's a nice sort of entry-level color work because you have to carry your threads on the inside. My floats are not perfect, but I'm pretty happy with it for my first attempt. I'm going to have her try this on, so I haven't woven in the ends. You knit this as a tube, and then you cinch up the top. And I have a pom-pom, but I'm not going to tie all this off until I have her try it on. I tried it on myself, and it's a little small for me, but I'm a big girl, so it'll probably fit her okay. I went ahead and blocked it, and blocking did help that some. But I actually did go ahead and start my own, and I actually cast on 6 more stitches in the cuff or headband, whatever you want to call this. And then I'm actually going to go ahead. It calls for 15 rows of this color plaid, this plaid section, but I'm actually going to do at least 18 for myself just because I think I need more. I mean, I can make it fit down on my head, but it feels like it's about to fly off. So I'm probably going to make mine just a shade bit bigger just because I don't like my hats to feel like they're fixing to fly off my head, and I feel like I'd constantly be doing that with it. So that is, let me find the pattern here. That is the True North Toque. I actually pulled the pattern out to show you guys if I can find it. Probably not, because that's not, oh, here it is. Haha, I am prepared. The True North Toque by MbyMKnitwear. She is MbyMKnitwear on Instagram, and this pattern is also on Ravelry. Or you can buy it through her Etsy shop. So it's very straightforward. It's an easy, fun knit. It knits up really fast. This was done in Lion brand Thick and Quick yarn. I believe this color, one color is called Claret, one's Cranberry, and then there's black in there. And it's a great sort of entry-level color work. Lets you practice holding your yarns. And I actually watched Kristen from the Yarngasm podcast from Volenvine Yarns. I watched her tutorial on how to hold your yarn for color work because I'm a continental knitter, and it worked great for me. I mean, I'm still getting used to how to hold it, and it was a little awkward at times, but I was pretty proud of myself, which is good because I would like to do a little bit of color work. My friend Antonia suggested a kit that I'm going to show you, not probably tonight, but in a later time, that's color work that I want to try to make. So that's the True North Toque by MbyMKnitwear. Okay, now another thing that I finished was the part of these baby gifts that I'm making, and these are for my friends who are, I've got several friends. In fact, I just got another invitation to a baby shower today. So it's the Dragon Lovey by Unlikely Handmade, which is Unlikely Nest on Etsy, and she's also on Instagram. So the Dragon Lovey, and it's very quick to make up. I've made two so far. This is the first one that I made. I made him in plaid, and he has his little contrast belly down there, you know, his little contrast tummy. And then I made his spines in felt, and then I used the same contrast fabric for his wings. And you stuff his head just a little bit. Okay, and then this is just a fleece body. And then the second one I made, I wanted to do something a little bit different, so I made his wings in the felt. So he's the same idea, you know, contrast belly, and then I made his wings in the felt. And just a very quick sew up. Again, the spines were in the green. I've got one more or two more of these cut out that I want to make up, but they're very quick to make. That pattern is available on Etsy. It's very easy to follow. It's got both written instructions and photographs, which I think is wonderful to have. So my last FO is a little bit bigger, so I'm gonna cut this here and then get set up for that. Okay, you'll just have to bear with me for the light behind me, so that because I need some room to back up to show you this. The solar system cowl is kind of winding down. We finished the blanket last week, and then on Friday she sent out patterns for most of the rest of the planets. So I finished all my planets and sewed all those on my blanket. Now the blanket is essentially done. You can line it if you want, and or back it. I'm probably going to put a backing on it at some point. Once I decide exactly what I want to do, I'll know it when I see the fabric. And then you can she's going to do some bonus appliques, and I don't know what all she was going to do. She had said maybe something like a TARDIS from Doctor Who or the Starship Enterprise, which is the one I would pick because I love Star Trek. So I'm anxious to see what those will be coming up. But anyway, so I'm going to hold this up where you can see, and then I'll come in closer where you can see the individual planets. So there you go. Woo. Okay, so that's the full extent of it. It's almost as tall as I am. I'm 5'10", and the blanket is almost as tall as I am. But just to give you a close-up on some of these planets, let me see here. I did tack my sun down so that the corona of my sun would show. I need to fix that. I need to press that a little bit because you can kind of see my stitching. But and there you can see Mercury and Venus sewn on. Okay, here is the Earth. She gave us a little chart for the Earth. And then I went rogue and went ahead and made my moon. That was going to be one of the bonus appliques, but I decided to go ahead and do it. I got a little excited, I guess, when I was making Jupiter, because Jupiter is almost as big, or is bigger than my sun, which is not true because Jupiter is about a tenth of the size of or the tenth of the mass of the sun. So that would be incorrect if we were doing this to scale, but clearly this is not to scale. If you want to know what the scale of the solar system is, look up on the internet Earth as a peppercorn solar system scale and get an idea of just how far apart things are. And then Saturn is over here. And I had some friends of mine had given me some variegated yarns and just different scraps of yarns, and so I decided to make use of some of those because, you know, your gas giant planets have some interesting cloud structures, or at least Jupiter and Saturn do. So I made Saturn out of variegated yarn because I thought that would be kind of neat. And then probably my favorite, and even though I know it's technically not a planet, it's a dwarf planet because it's a member of the constituency of the trans-Neptunian objects, like the things in the Kuiper Belt, like Eris and MKAL or Make, or however you want to say it in Hammade. But here's Pluto with his little heart crater on there. How could you say no to Pluto? Okay? But anyway, so this was a lot of fun to make. I'm really tickled that I ran onto it. It's all very easy. You can see some dog hair on it. It's all very easy. But I was pretty tickled with it. You know, it suits me right down to the ground being an astronomer. So that makes me really happy. But anyway, so yeah, my solar system blanket is complete, and that makes me very happy. So that's pretty much all I've finished this week since I last talked to you. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the things that I'm currently working on. Okay, so some of the things that I'm currently working on since I finished those two big projects. I mentioned last time that I was going to start the Cyril Socks by Danielle George from the Little Bobbins podcast. And the story behind this is really sweet. I won't tell you all of it in case you want to read it. But basically her engagement ring, or her wedding ring, has two names engraved in it. And it's a vintage ring, and she was trying to sort of imagine what their story would be. So she's releasing patterns based on these people, called the Vintage Love Story Collection. And this is the first pattern in that series, the Cyril Socks. Now, these have some cabling in them. And so the Grocery Girls March Sock Bash theme, if you want an extra entry, is cabling. So it works out great. So I started these. Now, I was going to be really ambitious. If you follow me on Instagram, you saw, ooh, I'm going to do a German elastic cast on, or an old Norwegian cast on, whatever you want to call it. And I did 3 times. It wasn't the cast on that I had trouble with. It was, there's a really great video by New Stitch a Day, which has left-handed videos, because as I mentioned in my first episode, I'm a left-handed knitter. And I like to see things. You can describe stuff to me, but I'd rather see what's going on. And so I found these videos by New Stitch a Day, and they have both left and right-handed videos, but I'm really tickled to find their vast collection of left-handed videos, and I'll put a link in the description if you're like me and you're a lefty. So I did it, and I learned how to do it, and it was not hard. However, my thing is, I like to knit my socks 2 at a time, because I'm really afraid that if I don't, I'll get bored after the first one and I'll just have a sock. And so I wanted to do 2 at a time. I could not, for the life of me, figure out how to take my cast on, because I did it on a straight needle, and do 2 at a time, magic loop my socks. Now, I was probably doing this on a day when maybe I wasn't focusing like I needed to. I'm sure it can be done. I broke a needle. I broke a bamboo needle trying to move stitches over. I stabbed myself in the hand. I cussed a lot. And I finally gave up and started them toe up using the Happee Knits method. Her method for 2 at a time socks, using the Flegel heel. Now I am going to try to do a heel flap and gusset. I'm not going to give up. I am going to try to learn to do a heel flap and gusset, but I used her method showing the Turkish cast on, and I'm going to have to read the pattern backwards, but so what? That's okay. I can do that. Just because after the 3rd time of cutting, of stabbing myself and cutting things off and getting things too tight, I just said a few things and decided to do what I know. I decided to pick my battles, and the battle on this one's going to be heel flap and gusset, and we'll save the other for another day. So this is how much I've gotten done. I started these. I've worked maybe an hour and a half on these because I am a pretty slow knitter. But I've got my cute little progress keeper from April 9 Designs that she kindly sent me when she sent my bag. I've still got my tag on there like Minnie Pearl. If you don't know who Minnie Pearl is, look her up. She's from the Grand Ole Opry, and she always wore this really cool garden hat, and she kept the tag on it. And I think it was $2.99 or $3.99, I can't remember. But anyway, so this is the bag. It's got llamas on it, and so my little progress keeper from April 9 Designs is a little llama, and I don't know how well you can see him, but anyway, he's very cute. Okay, but anyway, I'm just knitting this out of Peyton's Croy sock. This is the flax colorway. It's kind of fuzzy. It feels very woolly. It'd be like a good winter pair of socks. So, yeah. So that's how far I've gotten. I think I'm up to 28 stitches. I got to get up to 32 because I like a 64 stitch sock, I think. And I'm doing better with my tension. So that's kind of my battle that I'm fighting this time. I just decided that the top down elastic cast on will still be there on another day. So that's that. As I already mentioned, I started my True North toque. I've just barely gotten it started, but I've got this much done. I've got to do 23 rows of this, and then I'll start my color work part. I'm kind of holding off on getting there anyway in case I have to add some more to Sasha's hat to the crown to make sure it fits. So I did start that for myself, so good for me. Now, Treehouse Knits podcast is having a kit along, and I had mentioned this already. I had bought this kit, the Tangram Wrap. It's a Lion Brands yarn kit, and the pattern is by One Dog Wolf. She's on Instagram as One Dog Wolf, and I saw her pattern. It's all beautiful blues, and the kit is all blues, and I've actually made some progress on that. We went on a field trip today with the Adkins kids to one of our state parks, and my friend Miss Betsy drove, so that gave me time to crochet in the car. So I've finished the first section, and I'm about halfway through the light blue, and I just started adding the next color. It's all different colors based on blue jeans. The yarn is actually called Lion Brand Jeans. Okay, it's just an acrylic yarn, but I like things that I can wash easily. And the layout, it's called the Tangram, I guess, because it's kind of geometric shapes. And so you've got some triangles and some diamond or half diamonds and stuff like that. So this is as far as I am on it. I had to kind of figure out how to carry my yarn, and in some places you can kind of see I didn't do so hot, but I'm getting better. Yeah, so that's how far I got on that. If you remember last time, it was only about 5 rows or so. So I made quite a bit of progress today on it as we were driving. Okay, and then I have a new Easy Knit project. Well, it's not new. It's my long, forlorn, forsaken whip, my shawl. But I did finally remember and find what it was called. It's the Reyna Shawl. I'm not going to show you too much of the pattern, but It's the Reyna Shawl. It's on Ravelry. And I actually had a planetarium show the other day, and I needed something that I could work on while I was waiting on my group to arrive. And all I had with me were those socks or this. And I thought, well, this will be easier to do because it's not as small of needles. And so while an introductory movie was playing, to kind of, I always like to show a movie at the beginning to let the kids kind of, you know, settle down when they first get off the bus. So I was showing a movie called From the Earth to the Universe. I actually got about 7 rows added to this the other day. So I was pretty tickled. The yarn is Hippie Chick by Kimarie Knacks. And it's got sparkle in it. It's fingering weight. And it's a 75 superwash merino, 25% nylon. Yeah, so this yarn is meant to be for 1 skein of sock yarn. I don't know. I've got 2 skeins of this, so I may make it bigger. I don't know, because it's one of those patterns you can just keep on a trucking if you want to. But I'm pretty proud of myself for leaving that thing, you know, picking that thing up after it had been laying forlorn for so long. And that is in my Tesla Knits periodic table bag. And I worked on that on Wednesday, which was Pi Day, and it was also the day that I found out that Stephen Hawking died. But we'll talk more about that in a little bit. So that's the things that I'm kind of working on as far as my knitting goes. I still have my little baby blanket to work on, and I haven't cut out really anything else. Our spring break is coming up, so I'm hoping that I can get some more things going during spring break. But anyway, so that's kind of what I'm working on right now. So I'll come back and talk about some of my future ideas. Okay, so this is going to be kind of a future ideas sprinkled in with some acquisitions. So I don't know what we'll call that, but anyhow. So the first thing that I want to talk about is the podcast. I think there's a video podcast component to it, but I listen to it on audio. It's 2U's Fiber Adventures. And they are having a Sheep Thrills knit along, which I love that name. I hadn't gotten started. It started the beginning of March, and I think it runs to the beginning of May. And I haven't had a chance to start on what I wanted to make yet. But I decided that I was going to challenge myself a little bit and do a simple color work hat. So I'm not going to do the color work hat that everybody else talks about doing, which is the Bobble hat. I found another one that I wanted to try to start with, and that's the Sheep Love hat. They had shown this in their bundle on their Ravelry users group. And one of the people who had done this project had taken the little hearts and had done them in like a pink, which I thought was adorable. So that's what I decided to do. So I got these colors to do my Sheep Love hat with. So the pink, well, there was pink, like pale pink, and then there was this magenta fuchsia color, and I opted to go with that. I don't know, just struck my fancy at the time. So this is Cloudborn yarns, or Cloudborn Fibers Highland DK. And so this will be the main body of the hat. This will be the band where the sheep are. This will be the sheep bodies. Of course, the black will be their heads and their feet. And then this will be the little hearts. That color, I think it's just called fuchsia. Magenta. It's called magenta. Okay? So it's a little darker than what the person had used in their project on Ravelry, but I think I'm satisfied with that. I think that'll be pretty cute. So that'll be my opportunity to try to do some sort of next step up color work. Because, you know, you see everybody talking about these color work sweaters, and they're just gorgeous. The girl on the Fiber Tales podcast had one the other day, and I can't recall the name of it, but it is gloriously beautiful. It is way beyond my pay grade, though, so I got to work up to that. Also, Two Hearts Crochet had a sheep blanket, or not a blanket, a sheep pillow pattern. I need to check to see if crochet is allowed on that Sheep Thrills. We'll see. I hope so. If not, I've got a knitting pattern for this, but I thought this was really cute. It's with bobble stitch. So this is available on her Etsy shop. I went ahead and purchased it. I like to help out people. I figured since she was kind enough to provide the solar system blanket to us for essentially free, I would at least buy a couple of patterns from her. So this is one that I bought. So I'm going to try to make that also. That looks like that's going to make up pretty quick, I think. So I bought that. So that's something else I'm going to make. I had mentioned last time with the dungarees yarn from Chicken Coop Dyeworks that I was going to make the atomic powered hat by Teresa Silver. So I thought I'd show a picture of that. So this is by Argent Gal Designs, and this is the atomic powered hat. Now when I make it, I'm probably going to make it a little bit deeper, because again, I don't like my hats to feel like they're flying off my head for whatever reason. But I love that pattern on there. So, and she kindly gifted me this pattern. She was doing a giveaway for her new Instagram followers, so I was very honored to receive a copy of that. Okay, so I mentioned that I had bought a pattern from Two Hearts Crochet, and she had been previewing a pattern that she was developing. And when she finally put it up, I went, holy moly, I want that. It's a little unusual. It's not for everybody, but I love it. So it's the Kraken Shawl. Now, I bought the pattern, and it's supposed to be for DK weight yarn, and I thought, well, I'll know the yarn when I see it. Well, a couple of days ago, my friend Ray on Facebook, who we met through a Women in Agriculture site, we sort of are refugees from that site because that site tends to be a little less than open-minded to social issues, I guess. So some of us left and but we became friends, her and my friend Brandy and Leslie, and I met several people that way, which I'm very grateful that I've met them, because it makes me feel good to know that there are like-minded women in farming out there as well. So she has a friend, Rue, who has Suutra yarns, and Suutra has 2 U's in it on Etsy. Her yarns are beautiful. I mean, gloriously beautiful. And she had a fade set called the Northern Lights fade set or gradient set. I can't remember. It is fingering weight, so I'm trying to decide if I want to try to hold it double for this. I haven't quite decided, or if I'm just going to make a fingering weight shawl. I don't know. This is filet crochet, but it's all double crochets and chains, and if you can do that, you can do it. And then the tassels on it are just to die for. So I'm going to have to figure out how to make those. She's going to do a tutorial, she said, for those. So I bought this pattern, and I ordered the Northern Lights fade set from Suutra yarns. So hopefully it'll be here soon, because I want to get started on that, because I just think that is fabulous. Okay. Another thing that I like to make, because I am a kid at heart, One Dog Wolf also is doing a crochet monster pouch or monster bag, and her first one was Kelvin, the Kelvin monster. Kelvin, scientist has got to have a monster named Kelvin. I'm sorry, because Kelvin is the absolute temperature scale. So he's pretty large. He's got a zippered mouth. I think he's about, from the pattern, he looks like he's about 12 or 16 inches deep. And oh my gosh, that is just super cute. And so I decided to get that. It's a free pattern. If you go through her, she's One Dog Wolf on Instagram. And if you follow it to her blog, you can get to the free pattern. And plus, I want to learn how to put zippers in knitted things. I've never done that. I mean, I can sew and I can put zippers in a regular garment into woven fabric, but I've never tried to put it into any knitted material or crocheted material. So I thought, well, this is a good excuse to learn to do that. I'm going to make myself a monster bag. Last but not least, my friend that owns the knitting shop, Stephanie, she owns Knit Two Together. She sent me an Instagram message one night, and she said, hey, this is right up your alley. And I'm like, what is it? There is a mystery knit along starting on the 23rd, I believe, which is the first quarter moon. And yes, March 23rd. It is the Lunar Phase Mystery Knit Along. And it is by Larissa Brown. And she is on Instagram as Larissa Brown. And she also has a group on Ravelry. All we have gotten so far is how much yarn to get. And we can swatch. It's a shawl, so I'm probably not going to swatch. But maybe I should. I don't know. And then 6 and 7 fibers was making up kits for the colorways that you needed, and I actually ordered that kit. It's been shipped, but it hasn't arrived yet. So I actually ordered that kit. I don't know how well you can see that for the mystery knit along, and it's going to follow the moon phases, which suits me right down to the ground for a variety of reasons. It appeals to my astronomer side. It appeals to my inner witchy woman. My inner werewolf, whatever you want to say. You know, and one of the things the old timers always did was do things by the signs, and we'll talk about that one day. But I liked that, so I decided to participate. It'll be the first time I've ever done a mystery knit along, so I'm excited to see. My only concern is keeping up because it is each week. It's 4 weeks and you're done though, so I'm gonna have to try to get through, get through. And she even says in here the shawl is big and it will be a lot of knitting. So I'm going to try to get some of these other things off my plate before then, but because I would really like to do my best about keeping up, but we'll see. So yeah, so that's kind of what I'm working on right now with a little bit of acquisition in there. And we'll come back and I'll show you a couple of other things that I've acquired and then talk about the farm some. Okay, so the light's kind of getting progressively worse as we go here. So let me try to adjust this a little bit where maybe you can see a little bit better. Okay, so a couple of things that I've acquired. The Knitting Expat has a new shawl coming out. She was previewing it on her podcast. It's called the Change This Shawl, and it's pretty big. It'll be a pretty ambitious project, I think, for me to try to take on, but I want to try to do it. And she had said that you would need, I couldn't remember how many mini sets that you would need. So it turns out that I need 10 and I have 6 because I bought this mini skein set. This is a mini skein neon rainbow from Kimarie Knacks, and I got this at my local yarn shop, Knit Two Together. So I'm going to have to go back and get something to go with it. She has just a rainbow set, not a neon set, so I may get both of them and put them together. But yeah, Kimarie Knacks. Kimarie's Knacks. She is on Instagram, and she does have a shop that you can go to. This is a 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon, and this mini set is 552 yards total. I think the Knitting Expat directions said you need 2 full skeins of your main color, and then you need 10 minis. I didn't look at the yardage. So I'm going to have to go back and get, darn, I'm going to have to go to the yarn store. I hate that. That's tragic. But anyway, I like the rainbow colors. I'm very fond of that for a lot of reasons. The physics behind rainbows is pretty cool. I like the social message of the rainbow pride. I like to support my friends in that way. And plus, I just, and then also to a lot of people, a lot of different Western religions, rainbows are about hope. So who doesn't need a little more hope in their life, right? In Greek mythology, you had the rainbows being drawn across the sky by a woman driving a chariot. So I like it. I like rainbows. They're formed by total internal reflection and dispersion. Who doesn't like that? We're talking about that in my class right now. So anyway, so I got that set. Sorry about the crinkliness of that. Now, I follow Toft UK on Instagram because I like to crochet, and I like to make amigurumi, soft toys, cuddlies, stuffies, whatever you want to call them. They just released a new book. It's called Edward's Menagerie Dogs. Now, if you go on their website, there are tons of these Edward's Menagerie books, and they are such beautiful patterns. This book just came out. They're based out of the UK. They're actually at Edinburgh Yarn Festival right now with a huge stuffy of a Highland cow, which is called Morag, which is just the stinking cutest thing. And they sell kits, of course they do, which I would love, 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 love to have a Morag kit, but that'll just have to wait for another lifetime, I guess. But anyway, so the thing I like about this book, besides the patterns, there's some patterns in there, and they've got a bunch of different breeds of dog. There's the back. It shows some of the ones that are in there. Okay. I love how this book is physically made. It's spiral bound on the inside so that it lays flat. Wow, I love that. You know, when I go out and do my Master Naturalist stuff, my field guides and stuff, I love spiral bound ones so that you can lay them flat. There's just some really beautiful patterns in here. And they try to, and they've got them broken down by beginner, and then more advanced. So, for example, this is the list of the beginner patterns with a little Weimer on her puppy eating his, playing with his likeness there. Okay. But anyway, so, yeah. And it actually shipped really fast. It wasn't prohibitively expensive to have it shipped. But I was going to get it regardless. I wanted it really badly. So, yeah, check them out. It's Toft UK on, it's toftuk.com, but they're also Toft UK on Instagram. So, go check them out. Okay, the last couple of little acquisitions, these are small, but again, I'm on the pen train with everybody else, on the Enamel Pen Train. Leon Alexander Yarns, who I had talked about last week, was here for Trunk Show. He just released his enamel pen. It's glitter, and they are limited edition. So mine is number 4 of 100, which I thought was really cool. I've actually ordered some fabric to make myself a canvas drawstring bag to put my pins on. I have a canvas messenger bag that I have a lot of pins on. I think I'm going to move them all over because that bag is getting a little tattered looking. But anyway, so that's a Leon Alexander pen. And then I think I butchered her name last time. I think it's probably Natelle or Natelle Draws Stuff. She was doing, along with several other pen makers on Instagram, a second sale that goes to charity. If you follow her on Instagram, and you'll find out who all the people are that are doing the second sale. They just had one at the beginning of the month, and the charity that they benefited was the Malala Foundation, to help young women in countries where educating young women is not seen as something that needs to happen, become educated. So what they do is they take some of their pens that are not perfect, and they sell them for a slightly reduced price, and then they donate proceeds to charity. The only thing is you may not get a card for each one of them to store them on, but she included a really cute manatee sticker. How well you can see that. Let me try to focus that a little bit. You can see that I need to get my nails done. Well, it's not wanting to play ball. Maybe it's because I'm in the picture. Let me get out of the way. Okay, that's a little bit better. Yes, I need to get my nails filled. But she did put the pins that I ordered on a card for me. So there's my friend Antonia had recommended me, or had bought the manatee with the floral print that I just thought was adorable. And then I've always loved tapirs. I have a book called Happy to be a Tapir, or Happy as a Tapir, about a tapir who was not happy in the zoo and he wanted to be a different animal. And then an I. And that makes me think of, there's a series by Stephen Fry called Last Chance to See. And one of the I's, it's a series where there were these endangered animals that his friend Douglas Adams went around and saw about 20 years ago, the guy that wrote Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And after he passed away, Stephen Fry decided that to kind of honor his memory, he wanted to go check on the status of these animals, and there was an I in that group. I love Stephen Fry anyway, and so I sat and binge watched that entire series about all of these highly endangered animals on there. So I love eyes. But anyway, so the proceeds went to the Malala Foundation, which I'm all about supporting that group. So I was very pleased to do that. So follow her. It's probably Natalie Draw Stuff, but I was calling it Natelle Natalie Draw Stuff on Instagram. It's Natelle Draw Stuff. So check her out because they're doing good work, people. Okay, so what's going on in the physics part of my world? The physics part of the farm gal world. We're barreling down on spring break. We've got one more day of class this week, and then we're out for break. We just passed midterms. Just got through doing midterm grades and exams and stuff, and so we're kind of coming down to the end of the semester pretty quickly. I'm doing a service learning project with a group called Community Connections that takes children who have maybe developmental delays or physical issues where they can't maybe play football on the football team or march in the marching band or whatever, and they give them opportunities to do those things. Their motto is every child deserves a chance to play. And Willie, what have you got? You don't need that. Come here. So, what we're going to do for them is we're hosting a science day. It's called Super Science Saturday. This will be the 4th time that we've done it, or the 3rd time that we've done it. And what we do is we come up with a bunch of science activities, and my students, figure out the activities, they prepare all the materials, and they teach a little science lesson, and then let the kids go around all these different activities and do them. And it is the best day ever. I mean, I'll be honest, I was a little bit apprehensive. I don't have kids, so kids make me nervous. I don't have any experience, or I didn't have any experience being around children who have any sort of developmental issues or physical issues, just because I'm not used to being around kids, full stop. The Community Connections has a lot of children who are on the autism spectrum, and I had no idea what we were getting into, but I thought, well, let's see what we can do for these kids. And they're kids. I mean, that's the thing that I learned. And, that was my preconceptions and my prejudices and biases getting knocked in the head there. They're kids. We had a great day the first time we did it. My students did a really good job. Last semester, it was wonderful because one of my students was on our baseball team, our men's baseball team. So we got the entire men's baseball team to volunteer for that day. And if you want to see the cutest thing ever, you watch a big, rough and tough, burly baseball player wearing a little science backpack being led around by the hand by a 6-year-old girl going, we're going to go do this now, and and she's painting his face and putting, ears and wings and stuff on him. So it was a great day. So that's coming up. We're kind of getting ready for that. That'll be after the 1st of April. So we're getting ready for that, which is usually a lot of fun. I find it to be really valuable for my students because we talk about public scholarship and how to communicate science to a wide range of audiences. So these kids are part of that audience. And then also, too, my subversive agenda is I want my students to be involved in the community, and I want them to have some empathy for others and to have some understanding of others. So there's a video, and it's actually a video that advertises State Farm Insurance, but it's called, if you go to YouTube and put in State Farm Following, it's really a touching video. It really kind of makes me choke up because it kind of it's kind of how I feel about the world sometimes. And the catch line in it is lift the weight of caring by doing. And so that's kind of my motto in life, I think. So I'll link it down below because it is worth watching if you've never seen it. So that's coming up. And then this last week was an interesting week because, as I mentioned, Stephen Hawking died. And Stephen Hawking was probably one of my early career influencers as far as being an astrophysicist. Of course, the book Brief History of Time is one of the classics for popular science books, because he didn't shy away from, okay, you can come down. He didn't shy away from talking about tough and challenging subjects. And his life, he certainly lived a life that showed you can overcome obstacles that are put in your path. You know, so it was, when you're heroes, I guess, I mean, I don't want to heroize anybody, but when your heroes start dying off, you start feeling your age a little bit. And I guess, you know, Prince, and then Alan Rickman, and now Stephen Hawking, and Carrie Fisher. You know, I guess I got to face the fact that I'm getting into middle age, and I don't like that. But anyway, so, but I was doing a planetarium show that day, and, you know, it's kind of a mixed bag with kids in the planetarium show. Sometimes you get a group of kids that are a little bit older, and they're kind of over it, you know, science is not cool anymore. This group was great, and I knew it was going to be great because they came in, and they were, you know, quickly got in their seats, and they were very excited, but they weren't being loud and rowdy. And when that opening sequence came up, and this huge image of the Milky Way galaxy went across the screen in all of its glorious color with all those stars, they gasped. And I'm like, yeah, these are my people. So we watched that video, and then I did a star tour for them, and then I had some time to ask questions. And a lot of times I won't get any questions, and this group had a dozen or more questions. In fact, the teacher made them stop asking because I had to get to class. So that was awesome. I felt like it was a pretty wonderful tribute in a way to Dr. Hawking. Yeah, so that's kind of where we're at school. You know, like I said, we're getting toward the end of this semester, or we'll be, once we get back from spring break, I think we've got about 4 weeks left. And, you know, hopefully we can finish strong with our service learning project and do some good. So, anyway, yeah, so that's where I'm at with the physics. Okay, so farm life. Spring is upon us, and I know this because I had my first tick bite. Usually I don't get too freaked out about ticks because most of your tick-borne diseases, they have to be on you for quite a while before they can really transfer a lot of that stuff. Ticks are just a part of country life out here. I was driving to work on Tuesday morning, and I'm like, why is that particular part of my anatomy that I sit on really itching really bad? That feels like a tick. And I'm thinking, surely it's not a tick this early in the year, but it was. So the ticks are here, which that's a sure sign of spring, just right up there with the jonquils and the robins coming back. So one bad thing about not letting my poultry free range is I have ticks in my yard. I've thought about getting some guineas. But whatever's eating my birds, I would just be feeding them. So I don't really feel like sacrificing the guineas just to keep the ticks down. So just part of life. Usually I'll get 2 or 3 on me at the beginning of the year, and then I think I must just taste bad because they usually leave me alone after that. So yeah, so the other things that are going on with the farm, next week, you know, I've got big plans about what I want to get done. I've had to learn to be a realist. There's a quote that says a farm is a school of patience. You can't make a crop happen in 2 days or in a week, and you can't grow an oxen in 2 days. And that's the truth. I can make a plan, and I can have a list, and I can say I'm going to get X, Y, and Z done over a break. I'll be lucky if I get X halfway done. So I have a kind of a realistic plan for next week. I'm going to clean out and add to my compost pile from underneath my rabbit hutches. And I've got to do some work on a fence. I've got a hole in the fence that I didn't know that I had. Had a cow getting out. And didn't know she was getting out until the day before yesterday when somebody said, well, you got a cow out. So I drove down there and I didn't see her. Well, when I came in from work the next day, I saw her and I put her up. And actually, there were 2 holes in the fence. I fixed the one hole. And then the next day, I had a young friend of mine who recently graduated from college with his engineering degree come by and kind of visit with me about some job opportunities. And my neighbor came by You can stop that, Willie. Came by and said, Deb, you got a cow out. So I went down there, and she had another hole. And apparently a tree had fallen on my fence that I didn't realize was there. So my friend that was visiting with me, he's a farm boy, thankfully, and he's helped me in the past. So we patched a hole in the fence. Now, while we were working on this fence, one of my neighbors stopped by. And let me preface this by saying, my dad raised me, as he would put it, so that no old man had to take care of me. He kind of jibed me about it. Anytime I would date somebody, he would give me a hard time, saying, you better make sure you know how to take care of yourself. You better make sure you can take care of yourself. You don't need some man to take care of you. I think he did a little too good of a job, to be honest, because as he put it, toward the end of his life, I was a pretty independent cuss. And I still am. I don't get torqued off about a lot, but when you little woman me, I get pretty torqued. I get pretty mad. For example, a few days, about a month and a half ago, I have a former student that likes to come and help me sometimes, and he was here, and he said, hey, Dr. Burris, your hay man's here. And I looked out and I went, that's not my hay guy. And I knew it because the hay was stacked. Those big round rolls were stacked too high on the trailer, and I knew my friend that I buy hay from, he doesn't do that. So I go out on the porch, and there's this guy comes walking up, and he said, I need to talk to your husband. And I said, what do you need? How can I help you? And he said, I need to talk to your husband. And I said, well, there is no husband. How can I help you? And he stood there for a minute, and he said, well, that tractor over there, and he was pointing at one of my tractors, and he said, I need him to drive that tractor for something. And I said, let me say this another way. That's my tractor. There is no he. There is only me, who is a she. Now, what do you need? And he kind of shuffled around at me and said, well, my hay is falling off, and I need somebody to fix it. And he just kind of, and I said, well, I can help you. And you could tell he wasn't really comfortable with the idea. So I said, okay, well, you can either let me fix it by driving my tractor myself and fixing it, or you can leave it and you can go on up the road, and before you get to where there's a man with a tractor, that hay bale's going to come off, and then I'm going to drive my tractor up there and I'm going to take your hay bale. So, up to you. I don't care. And he finally, I guess, admitted defeat. So I go and I get my tractor and I fix, I readjust the load of hay for him. And he said, well, what do I owe you? And I said, you don't owe me anything, except don't ever assume that when a woman comes out on the porch, it's not her farm. Because according to the USDA, about 40% of farm operations are run by women. So, and he was gracious, but so the other day when we were fixing the fence, this guy stops. Now this is kind of why I got peeved. This man's wife knows who I am. I have helped her before. So he knew that this was my cow. He stopped and he said, are you Mrs. Burris? Mrs. Burris is my mother. Okay, not me. I said, and I probably shouldn't have said this. I will fully confess that kind of flew up in my face, and I was probably feeling a little bit, had my stinger out, as my dad used to say. I said, I'm Dr. Burris. Can I help you? And he just kind of looked at me and said, well, I just need to know who owns that house up there. And I said, that's my house. I said, but there is no husband, so there is no Mr. Burris, so I am not a Mrs. Okay, I'm a Miss, or Ms., or I'm just Deborah, how about? What's going on? And we were clearly down there fixing the fence, and I don't know if he stopped because he saw my friend down there, who is a man, or what, but he stopped and said, well, somebody's probably already told you this 15 times, and I'm not trying to start trouble. Don't you love it when people come in with that? But you've got a cow getting out. And I said, well, I didn't know it until the day before yesterday, and I thought that I had fixed the hole, but we have now fixed the second hole. And he just kind of kept talking, and he said, well, I just didn't know whose cow it was, and I didn't know who you were, and I'm thinking, yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. and you see me every day. You drive past on your way out to work. You know, so I don't know what his motivation was, and maybe I shouldn't have been quite so cranky, but this is my farm, and I pay the bills, and I'm the one who saved it from bankruptcy. So maybe I get a little bit crabby about that. I don't know. Maybe I should get over that, but I don't think so. She persisted, right? That's why the farm's still here, is because I persisted. Anyway, so yeah, so that happened the other day. Yeah, so other than that, I did get to ride some, and I helped the kids with the horse show stuff. I'm really anxious to get my gelding going. I would really love to be able to ride him this year. I need to get Trixie up and start refreshing her mind on some things. But everybody else is looking pretty good. Very happy for that. I haven't got chicks yet. The co-op actually was out of chicks the other day when I went in there. I went in to get some feed, and I went in to look for chicks, and they had sold them all. So I may not get chicks this year. And then I felt really bad for the young guy that was loading feed. He's new, and he's trying to be, you know, Johnny on the spot and get everything done. But he was loading somebody else. I just happened to be out there, and I was actually in my car. My poor little car hauls more feed than my truck does, honestly, because I drive it to work, and the feed store is on my way home from work. So he was trying to be really fast and really efficient, bless his little heart, and he gets off the forklift, and he knocks it into gear, or he knocks off the emergency brake, and the forklift proceeds to go backwards at a fairly rapid pace off the loading dock and into this guy's tailgate on his truck. And the poor kid's trying to run and jump on it. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, if that thing flips over. He manages to stop it, and it's kind of perched, you know, half on and half off the dock. And the two guys that were there were kind of like flabbergasted because it was their truck. So I just kind of went inside and told the guys, I'm like, I'm not trying to tattle, but y'all might need to walk outside and assess the situation. I kind of felt bad for him. I mean, it would have scared me to death if that had been me. I'm just glad it wasn't my car, because it would have smashed my poor little car flat. But anyway, so, yeah, so farm life is good. Got some plans for next week. I'm going to plan on riding horses on Saturday. Didn't get to ride today because we took the Adkins kids on a field trip to Toque Mounds State Park, which is one of our historical parks that has mounds that were not made by the Toltecs, unfortunately. It was one of those misnamed things, but it was made by the Plum Bayou people, which are a part of the Mississippian era Native Americans that lived here. It's on an oxbow lake that's close to the Arkansas River, and it's a really neat park. There's some ceremonial mounds and some platform mounds and a burial mound that they've excavated at the site. I posted some pictures of it on my Instagram if you're interested, so you can go there and have a look. So that's what we did today, and then we came back. Me and Mrs. Hayes rode down together, like I said, and so I was able to do some crocheting, and then we came back by and went to one of our favorite hole-in-the-wall junk stores, which was a lot of fun, and did a little bit of window shopping. But yeah, so that's where we're at on the farm, and we'll come back, and I will talk to you a little bit more about some things you can do for yourself. Okay, so here's the public education portion of the show. First of all, I'm just going to do a little PSA for native plants. I hate Bradford pears. You know, the white trees that bloom, and to me they kind of smell like dead fish. They bloom this time of year. They're sterile. They don't make any fruit, which is why people like to plant them around houses. The problem is they are invasive as all get out, and they compete with other native plants, native trees. They don't do the bees any good. So I would urge you, before you plant a Bradford pear, to investigate some of the wonderful native options in your area. For example, here in Arkansas, the red bud would be a great option. It blooms in the spring, it makes a beautiful pink bloom, and it is a native plant. And it doesn't smell like dead fish. a friend of mine has a great poem that I'm going to copy and paste in the comment section for you to read about why the bees matter. And that poem pretty well sums up why I don't spray my pastures and I let the henbit and the spring beauty and the blue-eyed grass and all of that bloom in my lawn, because my bees love it. You know, I can walk out right now and the henbit is blooming and my bees are everywhere and it's beautiful and they're very happy. So that's my public service announcement. Before you plant a Bradford pear, do some research in your area. I promise you there is a nursery somewhere close to you that specializes in native plants, and they can help you make choices that will still be beautiful and will still grow fast and will still give you the spring flowers, and they'll also be beneficial to the environment. So that's my public service portion of the program. Now, back to this. I haven't tried the cloths yet because they're still in the package, but I did try, I mentioned I tried the dry mop. I did try the mattress cleaner and the odor eliminator, and they do work pretty well. I use the mattress cleaner on my bed, and you spray it on, and it has the number of sprays that you're supposed to do for whatever size bed you had, and I actually doubled that because I have dogs. And I let it set for like it said it was supposed to, and it seems to help quite a bit. It did smell clean, and it didn't smell chemical. I hate that word. I hate when people say it smells chemically. Everything's a chemical. It didn't smell like cleanser. Okay, it didn't smell like bleach or something like that. And I used the odor eliminator. I used it on my mattress also, and then I also used it on my upholstery. I used it on my upholstered couch, and that seemed to really do a good job. I went and did the sniff test where I stick my nose right up to the cushion, and it smelled fresh and clean. So I've been pretty impressed so far with it. I'm going to try out the window cleaning cloth this weekend and see how that goes. I haven't tried the wet mop yet out. I'm going to try that, I think, this weekend also. Okay, so I talked a little bit about making vanilla extract on my first episode. Well, something else that you can make with that vodka is elderberry tincture. Okay, now elderberries are supposed to have some health benefits, and you can believe some people or you don't have to believe them or whatever, but I do make elderberry syrup. I have an elderberry bush that I bought from my local native plant nursery, and once you have one elderberry, you'll have elderberries from now on, and you'll have 57 of them. Because they do spread like crazy because the birds eat them, and wherever the birds go and sit and congregate, you will grow elderberries. So I have them growing along my fence rows, which is fine. I don't mind that a bit. They make a beautiful white flour that you can actually make jelly and liqueur out of. And then you can take the berries and you can make elderberry syrup, or you can make elderberry tincture. And so what this is I filled this jar about half to 3/4 of the way full with elderberries, and then I covered it with vodka, and then you shake it. Now, I save this. This is my secret weapon for when I actually get sick. When I actually get sick, I'll take a tablespoon or a teaspoon of this in the morning, or maybe 2 teaspoons. You don't want to take too much of it because it is vodka. But supposedly it has a lot of antioxidants in it and some vitamins, and that helps boost your immune system. I take the elderberry syrup every day during cold and flu season. It's kind of like eating local honey to help with your allergies. Figure it can't hurt, you know. So yeah, so I do that. But this is what I do with this is I just leave it in here. I haven't strained it out yet because I'm lazy. But you can just take a teaspoon of this, and I guess if you're feeling really bad, you can take a shot of it, and you won't care that you're sick. So, elderberry tincture. It's good for you. Okay, so yeah, so that's kind of a little bit of what you can make. I think I'm going to film a short video on how to make those heat packs. My friend Antonia had mentioned that she'd like to see more on that, so I think I'll do that. I don't know how well I'll do it, that I've never tried to film a tutorial before. If I can't make it work, maybe I'll just do a photo tutorial. But anyway, so yeah, so that's kind of wraps up farm stuff. So I guess we'll wrap up here at the end. So Willie's joined me to kind of say goodbye to everybody for today. If you'd like to follow my farm page, I'm Buckthorn Farms on Facebook, and then you can also follow me on Instagram or Ravelry as Doc Firewoman. I haven't made a Ravelry group for the show yet. Wasn't sure that there would be any interest, but if you think that I should, if you think that that would be something that you might be interested in, just let me know in the comments or message me on Instagram, because I just wasn't sure, you know, what people were getting out of this. And then also, you can follow me, like I said, on Facebook. You can message me on there. I do post pictures and everything of the things that are going on the farm there, so I would encourage you to check that out if you have an opportunity to. I appreciate everybody's feedback and comments so far. They've all been overwhelmingly positive, and that really means a lot to me. So thank you for doing that. So I guess I'm going to wrap it up, and don't forget I'm going to link my friend's poem about the value of native plants, or I'm going to put it in the comment section, so I encourage you to go read that. I did ask permission to share that, so I encourage you to go read that. And if you have any ideas or suggestions, let me know for things that you might want to know more about, and I hope you have a great weekend. I am looking forward to the weekend myself, and I hope you guys take care of each other and be good to each other, and peace out.